Hey, how's it going there, peeps? Phil here from MTG Kiwi Philosophy here again, bringing you yet another deck. This time, this is one I like to call my Selesnya Token Transformation deck. Alright, well let's kick into it as per usual, but this time we do have a build around, and then we're going into our low end to high end creatures, and our spells and our synergies. Okay, let's get into it, and our build around is 4 copies of Divine Visitation. Yeah, it's a 5-drop enchantment. If one or more creature token would be created under your control, that many 4/4 angel tokens with vigilance and flying would be created instead. So that's really fantastic. It's going to give us some evasion creatures and some bigger creatures, and of course tokens are reasonably easy to get out. Okay, well let's get into our first creatures, and then we'll move in to our... And that is 4 copies of Pelt Collector. Pelt Collector is a 1/1 for 1. But he has the ability of whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, that creature's power is greater than the Pelt Collector, put a +1/+1 counter on the Pelt Collector, and as long as the Pelt Collector has 3 or more counters, he gets trample, which is fantastic for us. And moving on to our 2-drop, and we're going to have 4 copies of Emmara, Soul of the Accord. It's a 2-drop 2/2, and of course whenever Emmara becomes tapped, she creates a 1/1 soldier token with lifelinks. It's really good for us with Divine Visitation. She's going to be able to convoke quite a few times in our deck, because obviously there'll be a bit of convoke going on. Okay, so moving into our 3-drop creatures, we're going to go with 3 copies of Ledev Champion. It's a 3-drop 2/2, and whenever the champion attacks, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control, and the champion gets +1 for each creature tapped this way. So that's really fantastic for Emmara and anything else we need with Convoke, and also just being able to make this creature more viable in combat with token creatures being tapped as well. And of course the secondary ability is being able to pay 5 mana and create a soldier token as well, which is not a terrible thing with the Visitation. So yeah, this is a very much a value card for me, and although it is a little bit small for you know, being a 2/2. Okay, well let's move on to our 4-drops, and of course our 4-drop creature is 4 copies of Conclave Cavalier, and it's a 4-drop 4/4 vigilance, which is fantastic, but when it dies it creates 2 green elf tokens with vigilance. So that's also great for the Visitation. When it dies, being able to create 2 angel tokens if we have Visitation in play, or even just being able to have that value, and you know, when a creature dies, creating 2 more creatures, it's essentially making the board go wider, and that's going to help us with our combat. Alright, so that is basically all of the main creatures. So let's move on to some of the spells and synergies. Alright, well let's move into our low curve spells and up into our higher end as well. And of course we're going to go with 4 copies of Sheltering Light, because Sheltering Light is a protection spell and helps us also dig with our scry, and it means we can protect all of our creatures that are a little bit vulnerable. And of course, to double up that defense, we're going to go with 4 copies of Assure and Assemble, because Assure, being able to give a creature a +1 counter and indestructible, is great, plus instant speed, being able to create 3 elf tokens at the end of your opponent's turn that transform into 4/4 angels with vigilance is also just really gnarly. 12 damage the following swing. And moving on to our next 3-drop card, and that is 2 copies of Sprouting Renewal. So it's a 3-drop sorcery speed, but it has got Convoke, which is really good for Emmara, and we've also got to choose one of these 2 abilities, which is to be able to create a elf token which can also transform, and also being able to destroy an artifact or an enchantment is really important, because we do have the likes of Ixalan's Binding out there still, so we want to be able to have some form of removal for that, and we're going to have some of these also in our sideboard just to have a little bit of extra protection for enchantment removal. Okay, so in our 4-drop slot we're going to have 3 copies of Conclave Tribunal. Now it is a 4-drop, however it does have Convoke, which is also fantastic for us. This enchantment is also going to allow us to exile a non-land permanent from the opponent's battlefield, which is going to help us convoke into Emmara, and also use tokens or any other cards to our advantage. And of course the last spell in the deck we're going with is 4 copies of March of the Multitudes. Now it's a fantastic X card, so it's a 3 in X, and it's instant speed as well, plus convoke, and we can create X11 tokens with lifelink, which is awesome because once again, if we do have Divine Visitation in play, being able to transform X white soldier tokens into, 4/4 flying angels is just crazy. And being able to convoke and use Emmara, get that value and start swinging in with some serious damage. We're going to keep it simple and go with 4 copies of Sunpetal Grove, 4 Temple Gardens, 2 Arch of Orazcas because we're going to be having plenty of permanents on the ground, and I think Temple Garden's going to be fine as well because we're going to have so many of those little token creatures that will start off as soldier tokens of lifelink, and that's going to help us with a little bit of life gain too. And of course the basic lands, we're going to have 7 forests and 7 plains. Alright, let's move on to our sideboard then, shall we? Okay, so our sideboard, we want to go with 4 copies of Settle the Wreckage, because Settle the Wreckage is a great 4-drop instant speed removal. Yep, your opponents are going to gain land advantage, but that's okay. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that at the time, but I'm sure you'd rather give your opponents lands than take a serious amount of damage. Okay, and of course, just like we talked about, we are going to have 2 more copies of Sprouting Renewal because we want to be able to have a little bit of extra token creatures and also a little bit of extra removal for enchantments and artifacts. And of course, we're also going to go with 4 copies of Pause for Reflection. Now, Pause for Reflection is a fantastic card. It's a fog, basically, 3-drop, but with Convoke. And so being able to Convoke and tap a few of our token creatures down, even with Emmara, and just going wide a little bit further, preventing all that damage, and then being able to take advantage of your opponent's wasted turn. Alright, so the next card we're going to add to the deck is 3 copies of Spore Swarm. Now, Spore Swarm's fantastic. 4-drop instant speed, create 3 tokens, and they're going to transform into 3 angels at instant speed. So, yeah, very basic combination for the deck. But of course, the last card in our sideboard, also very good value for our deck, and that is 2 copies of Toshani's Dissident. And it's a 5-drop 1/4 legendary creature, but all your creatures are going to get +1, and when it enters the battlefield, it also triggers and gets yourself 2 soldier tokens. And at the beginning of your end step, if your opponent's stolen some of your creatures, you can get them back. So that's not such a biggie, but definitely being able to drop it in and get that value is really good. I think that's really cool, being able to pay 5 mana, drop it in, and if we have Divine Visitation, get 2 angels out of it as well. Alright, well, that's the deck. I hope you like it. I'm Phil from MTG Kiwi Philosophy. Hope you smash that like button, share, subscribe. I guess I'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao!